Oh, hi. Welcome to my channel. My name is Santiago, and today it's going to be an English speaking video. It's going to be some kind of second part of the one I made about feminism. But when I did it, I wanted to kind of read something I wrote about it before. The only issue is that it was written in English and I didn't feel like translating and doing all the stuff. So I decided instead of doing that, what I was going to do is just record a reading of the article I wrote about it. And so if you don't like reading, then you're gonna have me talking, reading it through you. And if you like reading, you can go to my WordPress page and just read it there. The link will be on the description, but anyways, on my channel description, you have the link to the main page, and you look for the title, and that should be okay. So let's go for it, okay? So I've already done this once, and it was in Spanish, and the people that replied to me or sent me messages liked it. So I'm gonna try to do it again with public today. So, this entry in my blog is called A Women's World. That was before Katy Perry, but we all know that Katy Perry didn't invent the name. It was a Cher song, so whatever. And it was written in March 2023, so almost 2 years ago. So it may have some things I would like to update, which is probably I'm gonna do that. But let's go for the reading. Everything okay? Okay. So I guess at some point I was entitled to write something about how women are depicted in shows and movies, whether it's supposed to be a feminist program or not really. So here I am, and let's give it a go. I'm going to start with a review of Sex and the City, which originally aired from 1998 to 2004, and then with two more movies and a sort of reboot or whatever it's been called And Just Like That, which is supposed to pick up the same characters and put them in a more updated world. And I'm not going to go to talk about the prequel because I haven't seen it. I'm not really interested. So, anyways. So honestly, this show was groundbreaking at the time. We're talking the late 90s. It depicted a more raw and free version of women, more empowered and feminist. Four single women in New York in their 30s and on. The idea worked very well as it tried to show they needed no men to be successful, and also tried to break molds of the patriarchy, like the one that you can either be successful or a mother, etc. Unfortunately, the idea went soft the more the show went on, and except for Samantha, which I've already spoken about, the rest ended up being just what society expects women to be. By this, I mean a man-ruled society, of course. As I already wrote on another entry that's called Sex and the City versus And Just Like That, they closed the series and even went further in the movies with a non-so-progressive idea. Let's go for it. So Samantha gets pregnant by accident, keeps the baby, gets married to the father since she didn't manage to have a single mother life, and they end up moving together out of Manhattan. That's still in the series. Charlotte finds the love of her life, but has to change religion in order to marry him. He doesn't do anything towards her. Again, a woman has to do all the work to be married. And I've spoken about that too. Both characters did it for love, which is the excuse always used for sacrificing their own personas, like I've already said. As for Carrie, after spending 6 seasons, coming back and forth around Big, after proving he was not a good man and he was mistreating her by not accepting her, by not accepting her as she was, the way she was, they end up together and getting married. That is at the end of the first movie, because the first part of the movie, the first one, is about how annoying, I'm gonna say, he was. So they end up getting married, not with a good guy, Aiden. By the way, she cheats on him with Big, like I wrote on another entry that's called Bad Boys. So a show about women power ends up by showing us it is all good, but a good woman has to be married no matter how and with whom. So yeah, except, like I said, except for Samantha, they all end up like being married and with kids, except Carrie. That's not very progressive. Anyways, let's go back in time a bit now. Xena Warrior Princess originally aired from 1995 to 2001, so it's before. Although it came as a cheap spin-off of Hercules, it became soon more popular to the point where it has become some kind of cult. A cult not as in the religious part, but cult as in it's a dogma, or it's a cult. I don't know if you have that word in English, but it's like something that is transcended the just stream media. Not only for showing a pair of strong women who need no men to make justice in a time where all warriors and heroes were masculine, but also for depicting a friendship between them that could be read as something more gay. The fact they never openly said anything about being lovers and letting it for the audience to decide, remember it's in the 90s, was a great idea and gave us the LGBTQ plus teens some kind of reference. Yeah, I don't think back then it would have worked by them being openly lesbians or not. But it's true that for us, it was like, there was always the, are they going to be or not? And I don't think back then it was a bad idea at all. You don't need to show everything up, Anyways, that's my opinion. Xena's journey is great. She comes from being evil to be the mother of all good. So I'm gonna spoil a bit. If you haven't seen the series, just skip this part. Otherwise, you're gonna know how it ends. And if you haven't seen the series, where were you in the 90s? I'm just kidding. So, she comes from being evil to be the mother of all good, kinda. But the best one is her sidekick, Gabrielle. She was just a farm girl in episode 1, and spoiler alert, she becomes the warrior princess herself in the last episode. She goes from being just a bard to become queen of the Amazons, peace representant she goes from peace representant to great fighter, until she really becomes an equal to the main character and kind of replaces her. All this with no men around to propel them to their goals. Actually, yeah, the men were there just to put, barriers or be the guy that they needed to fight. This being said, one of my favorite shows is Charmed, as I've already spoken about that in previous videos. This one aired from 1998 to 2006. And it tells a story of 3 sisters that discover they're witches. This is the important part. The base of all the show is their relationship. They bond as sisters. The magic is secondary. Although there was a changing on the dynamics after season 3, with the departure of one actress and the arrival of another. They were the ones saving the world or the city in a weekly basis. If you want me to talk about that mess that happened between season 3 and season 4, and why Shannon Doherty got kicked out of her own show, and what it made to all of us while watching that live, just leave me a comment and I'll talk about that, but not today. This was a real powerful women's show. Even if they had to fight demons and other male enemies, and sometimes female enemies too, they always found the way to succeed and vanquish them. The main plot was always how they would make their lives go as normal as possible as they were fighting evil. Of course, the love search was very present. First, it was a little bit like the guy on the week thing, which back then was a bit too much for certain audiences. But if you can have a bad guy of the week, why not also a good one? Yeah. If you watch the podcast of the cast, they talk about that a lot. With the passing of time, it obviously evolved to get more intense. So they got married and divorced and married again, and they got children eventually. Maybe this part is the most classic one, and it could have tried to get more modern. Still, it wasn't its aim when the show started, considering that Aaron Spelling was behind it. I can see it was pretty bold for its time. Then again, if, like I said on the previous video about feminism, if you look at Melrose Place, for example, some of the female characters were badasses. And Alice Milano was there, and she was, and Kristen Davis was also there. Loads of them were there, basically, and they were, yeah, pretty badasses. So I think at that time that the Spelling television or shows started to become more modern, although they dragged a little bit their feet. They tried to make a reboot around 2018, because they thought it was not feminist enough. 3 women saving the world on a weekly basis on their own was apparently not enough girl power. And they were looking for something more recent. That's where it failed. The only thing in which they improved was making one of the witches' sisters lesbians, and that was it. Yeah. I tried to watch it, but I got bored of seeing something that looked like a ripoff from the original show. Yeah, I tried to watch it, and honestly, I just disconnected from the show, because it was like, yeah, if you haven't seen the original one, maybe it would have worked. But then again, you should have just used another name, like they've done with many other witches series, and that they have worked. But whatever. Speaking of bold, we have Two Broke Girls. It aired from 2011 to 2017. So, so we get to more recent times. Now we are back in the late 2000, in the 2010s. Even if almost half of the cast is male, the main characters are Max and Caroline, 2 waitresses, one that comes from a low-income background, whilst the other has to accept this job because she just lost all her money because of some bad businesses her father did. That's the beginning of the show. In this show, the treatment of girl power is as strong and raw as it can be. If you haven't seen the show, just give it a try, you'll see what I mean. They talk about tampons, self-pleasure, and basically treated men as they treat women. Sorry, there's a misprint here. I would say it went further than Sex and the City, yeah, but without the obvious nudity and too much emphasis on the sex. And then again, it was later on. So I would say that Sex and the City put on the first steps, opened the door to that. Although they treat the subject a lot, and they do, sometimes you don't need to actually show it to make your point. Not everything needs to be Game of Thrones and the free nudity just for the sake of it. Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes you don't need to see it to know it's there. Probably the fact that it's a comedy show made it easier to make fun of some topics and go through them without being too polemic, although the critics didn't appreciate so much controversy and boldness, and after 6 seasons, the show got cancelled. They got actually cancelled on a cliffhanger, so yeah, you know how people hate that. The racial jokes and too much sexual and drug humor, yeah, was something the American audience didn't like, and that's why they canceled it. I must say that in Europe, it worked pretty well. The people I know here in Spain and in France that used to watch the show with me, they appreciated that. But I get that their basic audience were the US. Two women can manage to find their way from broke to less poor all the way by working together and helping each other. Talk about girl power. Okay, they wanted to sell cupcakes and worked in a diner, but the main storyline about how they get their dreams, which for once don't involve getting married and having children, and how they kind of manage to make them come true. Yeah, with no men around. The fact the show got pulled out of the stations leave us with not a real ending. Like I said, you never know. We never got any closure. Another show that got taken off the air for being too bold was Sybil. I spoke about that too on the previous video. Aired from 1995 to 1998. It treats the topic of ageism in Hollywood and how women are definitely not treated equally by the industry of men. Christine Baranski plays the sidekick of the actress who's looking to remain relevant in her 50s in a business that only wants young people and where men have to deal with way less issues than their female counterparts. Doesn't that sound like The Substance? I lost myself. Yeah. As with the previous show, the depiction of women's sexuality and the main character bold feminist leaning was too much for the audience. So again, at the end of the 90s, if you're too much a feminist, they don't like it. Well, I spoke about it in the other video, talk about Madonna, and you get it. Despite having some 90s vibe throughout the show, I must reckon that it is one of those that did age well, and most of the basic storylines about feminism are still, unfortunately, real. The harsh way of showing to their faces that Hollywood is misogynistic is something most didn't appreciate. Every time I watch the show, I feel some real life-inspired topics from the two main characters, which is Sybil Shepherd and Christine Baranski, which is probably why in the end they got cancelled. Some men, show businessmen, don't like to be told the truth about their condition and how they treat women. That's something back then, before Me Too, that happened. You couldn't go there and say, "Oh, you're misogynistic and fuck the patriarchy," like Taylor Swift says on her song. Back then, you couldn't do that because you would get cancelled. On the brighter side, there are also two other shows that didn't make it through, despite, or maybe because of, having single business women as main characters. Yeah, that's kind of tricky. One is Suddenly Susan, with Brooke Shields, where she plays a magazine writer that is new to being single, and the other one is Veronica's Closet, where the late Kirstie Alley is the owner of a successful lingerie company, but needs to deal with the world of fashion when you are not 20 anymore. Again, more ageism in that last one. She had to confront a world where youth and being blonde is more important than actual skills. Watch it, it's really funny, and it's like 3 seasons, and it doesn't end up in a cliffhanger, sort of. It aired from 1997 to 2000. Well, the first one, which is the Suddenly Susan, aired from 1996 to 2002. Those comedies use, as the previous ones, the humor to get to the topics that hurt and show how feminism is never done. Teaching the men in power how different the world is from the other side of gender, which they don't appreciate. Yeah, men don't like to be told when they're wrong or that they are wrong. This is why strong women are always going to be hated and they will try to destroy them. Men will try to destroy hated the women they hate. They've done it since, well, and with the help of other women, but they've done it with Madonna. They do it with um, Taylor Swift. They've done it with Catherine Hale, with Shannon Doherty. So many. I could do a whole video just about that. They did it back then with the witch trials, inventing false evidences against those ones that were not docile. Even nowadays, you can see how the media try to trash whatever woman that speaks freely and points out the flaws of our patriarchal society. Madonna is one of them, without whom many singers wouldn't be as famous as they are now. She paved the path for them to become stars, as many others did before her, but by being bold and behave like men normally do. She's one of the most hated women on earth. Yeah, but she's not the most. She does whatever she wants, she earned it, and still so much hatred goes in her direction. Basically, because part of the society does want women does not want women to be equal to men. I think that's wrong. Anyways, as I'm reading this, I'm saying, oh, I need to correct this. Anyways, patriarchy is something that has been printed very deep within our minds since the dawn of time. The fact that for the Bible, women were created from a rib proves this point, which actually is not true. And if you want me to elaborate more on this topic, just write me a comment and I'll do some research about that and a video about why in the Bible there is a mistake there and Eve doesn't come from Adam's rib. But that's for another topic. We live in a world ruled by men up until very recently, and they don't want to lose their power. But confronting half of the population may not be the best idea. Besides, women's rights don't take men's off. On the contrary, they implement them, right sum up, never opposite. Yeah, that's something people need to understand because they feel like if women's, gay people, minorities have more rights, they're going to lose theirs. And that's actually not true. You're not losing rights by giving rights to other people. You are increasing yours and you are showing that you're an actually human being and not la poubelle. This was written in March 2023. P.S. I will come to write about female superheroes one day, which I did. I know some of you expected me to write about this DCU or the Marvels universes, but they deserve a whole entry on their own. Let me know if you want me to talk about that entry, which actually exists. So that's my catch about it. Like I said, I've already spoken about that in another video in Spanish. If you want to have like the whole story, you can look at that video and comment. So this being said, I think that's going to be it for today. Thank you for being there. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. It's always nice when people, give you likes. I know that many of you just watch the video, which I really appreciate. But sometimes giving the thumbs up, it's really, really appreciated. So please do. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already in the channel. There's going to be lots of videos about this, about them, about other hobbies I have, places I visit, and also the airport landings and takeoffs that I feel like people like. So like I said, don't forget to subscribe and hope to see you soon in another video. Bye.